The legal nightmare that Sean Combs finds himself in has also affected his family. We're going to break down some of the controversies that his loved ones have faced as the embattled rapper and media mogul has been arrested, charged, and hit with multiple sexual assault lawsuits. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. You know, with so much talk centered around Sean Combs, we should actually dedicate some time to how this whole case, the scandal, the series of controversies, how they have engulfed his family and what role they have played in this story. So I'm going to talk about that, but to set the stage, where are we right now? Well, Combs, as you know, was arrested in September. He's been charged with sex trafficking, racketeering, transportation to engage in prostitution out in New York, pursuant to a federal grand jury indictment. Allegations that he used his businesses and his power and his influence to direct and control an illegal enterprise that was engaged in a number of crimes, that he engaged in the sexual abuse and exploitation of women, that he used threats, force, drugs to coerce people into prolonged sexual episodes involving commercial sex workers. This has been referred to as the infamous freak-offs, and it is being reported that even though he's facing all these charges, that a grand jury currently is hearing new evidence. So it is possible that he could be indicted on new charges, or there could be amended charges. We shall see. He currently sits behind bars at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn as his attorneys are making a new request for bail. But let's talk about his family, because that's going to be the focus. So Combs shares 7 children with 4 different women. So we have Quincy Brown. This is Combs' adopted son. He is the son of the late Kim Porter, this is Combs' ex-girlfriend, and singer-songwriter and record producer Albie Shore. Then we have Justin Combs. This is Diddy's first biological child that he had with fashion designer Misa Hilton. Justin was born in 1993. You might recall that he was thrust into the public spotlight back in 2008 when he appeared on MTV's My Super Sweet 16. He was featured alongside his dad. Then there's Christian Combs. This was Diddy's first child with Kim Porter. Christian, who goes by the name King Combs, he has followed in his father's musical footsteps. He's launched a rap career, he's done some modeling. Then there's Chance Combs, who was born to Sean Combs and businesswoman Sarah Chapman, who was Combs' friend at the time. The two never really publicly recognized their relationship. And then Sean Combs and Kim Porter have 2 other children, twin girls, Delilah and Jessie. And then there's Combs' youngest child, whose name is Love, his daughter. She's going to turn 2 in December. She was born in 2022. Her mother is Dana Tran. Hey, by the way, thank you so much for following us on our Diddy coverage. We really, really appreciate your support. And look, I also got to call out one of our incredible partners who help make these shows happen too. Our sponsor, Morgan & Morgan. Look, here's the deal. If you're injured, you have to know what your legal rights are and if you can be compensated. And Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm, they may be who you want in your corner. They have a dedicated team of over 1,000 attorneys. They have an incredible track record, like recent verdicts of $12 million in Florida, $6.8 million in New York, $26 million in Philadelphia. There's no upfront fee. They only get paid if you get paid. The whole process can be done straight from your smartphone. So if you're injured, you can easily start a claim at forthepeople.com/LC Sidebar. But back to the story. So when we talk about his children have been incredibly supportive of him throughout this whole legal process. As we previously reported, Justin posted a 2-minute video of all of them, all the children, wishing their father a happy birthday on his 55th birthday while he sits at the Metropolitan Detention Center. 6 of the kids were there with a birthday cake. Chance wasn't there, but she was on another phone. Here, take a look.
Happy birthday to Daddy. Happy birthday. Keep going.
Happy birthday to Daddy. Keep going,
go. Happy birthday to Daddy. Yay!
Yay!
I love y'all so much.
We love you too.
Love you, Pastor.
I can't wait to see y'all.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see y'all.
Yes,
And I just want to say I'm proud of y'all, especially the girls. I mean, all of y'all. But just for being strong. Thank y'all for being strong, and thank y'all for being by my side and supporting me. I love y'all. I got the best family in the world. My birthday, I'm happy. Thanks to y'all giving me this call. Thank you very much. I love y'all.
We love you all too. Can't wait to see you in a couple of days.
I'll see y'all in a couple of days.
Say it again.
What you say?
I love you, Daddy.
Yeah.
I love you too, baby.
Now, that's not really controversial, although it is kind of interesting to hear Sean Combs' voice after we haven't heard him for so long. But let's talk about what is controversial. So, I want to begin with Christian and Justin because they are the most directly tied into the current allegations against their father. What do I mean by that? To be clear, they have not been criminally charged at all. They are not named in any way in their father's indictment. I want to make that clear. But if you recall, they were detained when their father's properties were raided back in March by Department of Homeland Security agents. More specifically, Sean Combs' mansion in Los Angeles. Outside, they were put in handcuffs. And as we discussed before with law enforcement professionals, while that is standard operating procedure for when the feds raid a property, especially properties where guns are located, and remember, guns were recovered at those properties, there was one person who took a real issue with this. That was Justin's mom, Misa Hilton, because she posted a video and statement on Instagram following the raid saying, "The overzealous and overtly militarized force used against my sons Justin and Christian is deplorable. If these were the sons of a non-black celebrity, they would not have been handled with the same aggression. The attempt to humiliate and terrorize these innocent young black men is despicable." But I got to tell you something. As I was watching these raids unfold back in March, I was wondering if the brothers were not just detained for the purposes of the raids, but were they actually going to be arrested? Why did I think that? I thought that because Justin had already been named in a sexual assault lawsuit filed against him, his father, and others. I'm talking about the suit from Combs' former producer, Rodney Lil Rod Jones. Jones alleged in his lawsuit that he was sexually assaulted, harassed, sex trafficked by Combs, but he also named Justin as a defendant in that lawsuit. He wrote, "Justin Combs solicits prostitutes, underage girls, and sex workers would engage in freak-offs." And he alleged that Justin was part of his father's criminal enterprise, that he was part of this racketeering cause of action or claim in the lawsuit. And Jones actually laid out one specific alleged incident involving Justin in this complaint that I want to address. It was a shooting at a recording studio. The complaint reads, "On or about September 12, 2022, Mr. Combs held a writers and producers camp at Chalice Recording Studio." This is in LA. "Mr. Combs, his son Justin Combs, and Justin's friend G were present at this camp. One evening during this camp, Mr. Combs, J. Combs, meaning Justin, and G were in a heated conversation. That conversation was moved out of the studio and into a restroom adjacent to where Mr. Jones was sitting. Mr. Jones was approximately 2 feet away from the bathroom when gunshots rang out. Mr. Jones recalls hearing multiple gunshots. Mr. Jones immediately went into a state of shock and feared that he would be shot next. Mr. Jones genuinely believed that he would be shot through the door due to how close he was. After the shooting ended, a crowd gathered around the restroom. When the door finally opened, Mr. Combs and J. Combs exited. G was lying on the restroom floor in a fetal position, holding his stomach and bleeding out of his torso and leg, hip area. Mr. Jones lifted G and brought him to the ambulance at the front of the studio. At this time, Mr. Combs and Justin disappeared to another part of the studio. Mr. Combs gave strict instructions to inform the police that he had nothing to do with the shooting. He also forced Mr. Jones to lie to the police by telling them that G was shot standing outside the studio by a drive-by assailant. By the way, Jones used this alleged episode as an example of how Combs instilled fear in him to exercise dominion and control over him, to threaten and intimidate him. These are key elements of a sex trafficking, sexual assault claim. But again, you can understand why I initially thought that Justin and or Christian were being arrested. Now, we don't know if this alleged episode will play a role in Combs' criminal case. We don't know if Jones is even a government witness. We don't know if even Justin is being looked at by the feds as an alleged co-conspirator or associate who helped his father engage in this racketeering enterprise. But this episode and the claims in his lawsuit, they echo allegations of a criminal enterprise, violence, guns, sex trafficking, as detailed in Combs' indictment. And again, it made me wonder if initially Justin was going to be arrested the day of the raids. But you can see, at the very least, how Justin is getting swept up into the lawsuits and the allegations facing his father. And It's not only Justin, because now let's talk about Christian Combs. The month after the raids, April 2024, after Sean Combs was already facing multiple sexual assault lawsuits, after he was already being investigated by the feds, his son Christian was sued. A woman named Grace O'Markey filed a lawsuit in Los Angeles Superior Court, and she claimed that while working as a steward on Combs' chartered yacht back in December of 2022 out in St. Martin, she was assaulted by Christian. She believed that this trip, she said, would be a wholesome family excursion, but she says it turned into a hedonistic environment. She even described rampant drug use amongst sex workers and celebrities who came on board. And she even believes that the alcohol on the yacht had been laced with drugs because she says women would have one drink and then almost immediately pass out or start falling over. And she alleges that one night, Christian came aboard, started groping her legs, her breasts, her private areas. In fact, she claims she told him, "Excuse me, you don't touch my legs like that. I'll move my legs where I want to. If I want to do this, then I will. You don't touch my legs like that." And O'Markey says that she tried to go back to work at one point, but Christian finds her, tells her, "Hey, listen, I need a place to sleep for the night on this yacht." So she takes him to the cinema room for the yacht, and she claims that is when Christian blocks her, gropes her, takes off his clothes, and tries to force her to perform oral sex on him. She says she was able to fight him off until someone came in. And the lawsuit goes on to say that O'Markey told the yacht captain what had happened the next day, but he didn't believe her. He didn't do any sort of investigation. And she says this yacht captain retaliated against her for months after this alleged assault and then ultimately fired her in May of 2023. And embedded in the complaint are photos of what she says are bruises that she says were caused by Christian Combs. But she also claims that it was Rodney Jones who was actually there. He was there for that initial interaction where Christian was allegedly groping her and touching her and kissing her. And she says Jones even has a recording of this. The complaint even alleges that there are transcripts of the audio recordings of the kissing sounds and her telling Combs not to touch her. The civil lawsuit that she filed accuses Christian of assault, battery, sexual assault, intentional infliction of emotional distress, but she also sued Sean Combs. She named him as a defendant. She accused him of aiding and abetting Christian's behavior, as well as having premises liability because he was the leaseholder of the yacht, and that basically means that you have a duty to keep people on your property safe from injuries, and she said that Sean Combs failed in that duty. But keeping it with Sean Combs' sons for a minute, Quincy, let's talk about him, Quincy Brown. He also faced some controversy too. Why? Now, he wasn't named in a lawsuit. He hasn't been implicated in anything that his father is accused of. Want to make that clear. But he made a decision that received some blowback. So last month, after his father was arrested and charged with federal sex crimes, he announced that he was going to be launching a video series called Just a Vlog. This show covering his lavish lifestyle, that it would feature him, his siblings. I mean, the trailer for the show focuses on his wealth. There's a shot of a woman in a bikini. There's a shot of Diddy. There are family vacations. According to the Shade Room, the series will, quote, show the behind the scenes of his family. In the show, people will be able to view the Combs family through their own lens as Quincy documents his family doing various activities, family vacations, the highs and lows, and more. The problem for Quincy was timing, right? Because in light of what his father is accused of, online commentators said this was not great. This was a failure to read the room. This was tone deaf. Some things that were said were, this is the stupidest idea ever. I don't know if this is the move. As a lawyer, I would never recommend my client's family to do this at a time like this. This seems like a terrible idea and extremely bad timing. But doesn't really look like it deterred Quincy because he released the first episode just a couple days ago. And there were comments in the comments section of the YouTube post that were quite positive. There was, "This was great. Take care of each other. I love this cue. Quincy, I loved every minute of this vlog. It was so good, especially that driverless car. Love your new music. Can't wait to watch the next episode." Now, speaking of Quincy Brown, he, along with the rest of the family, have been more directly involved in Sean Combs' case. For example, last month, Quincy, along with Justin, Christian, Chance, Delilah, and Jesse, they released a joint statement about their father. And the statement read, "The past month has devastated our family. Many have judged both him and us based on accusations, conspiracy theories, and false narratives that have spiraled into absurdity on social media. The statement continued with, "We stand united, supporting you every step of the way. We hold on to the truth, knowing it will prevail, and nothing will break the strength of our family. We miss you and love you, Dad." But the family also spoke out about an issue that was tangential to their father, Kim Porter. Now, we've discussed this before, but in the wake of the allegations surrounding Sean Combs, a lot more interest has been put upon the death of Kim Porter, who tragically passed away in her Los Angeles home in 2018. The LA County Medical Examiner's Office concluded that she died of lobar pneumonia, that apparently she had gone into cardiac arrest. It was reported that she had been battling flu-like symptoms in the days that led up to her death, that there was water bottles, sports drinks, Pedialyte, they were all in her bedroom. However, despite these findings, there have been rumors, unsubstantiated rumors to be clear, but rumors mostly popping up online that there was more to Porter's death, that maybe someone killed her, that there needed to be a further investigation. And this was all heated up by everything that was going on with Sean Combs. And we heard more high-profile voices adding into this, like Quincy's father, Al B. Shore, who I mentioned before. Because after Sean Combs was arrested, Al B. Shore posted to Instagram, "In a nutshell, Kimberly was allegedly taken from us because she was set on course to accomplish what Mrs. Cassie Ventura did by igniting the bonfire, which brings us here today." Ventura, of course, is Combs' ex-girlfriend who filed that initial sexual assault lawsuit that ultimately led to more lawsuits and led to the federal charges. But he also called for, quote, "an investigation into an entire group of individuals who worked at or around the residence of Miss Kimberly Porter." And he even called her death a tragic murder. Even Gene Deal, Combs' former bodyguard, jumped in on the fray. He spoke on the Art of Dialogue podcast saying, "You got to realize, man, Kim's death wasn't even investigated." And he also suggested that the case may need to be reopened. By the way, we did sidebars about this. We brought on forensic death investigator Joseph Scott Morgan to talk about this, kind of washed away these conspiracy theories, talked about how it wouldn't really make sense, how it was inaccurate, what was being said. But as all of this was going on, there was a book that was published on Amazon. And it was entitled Kim's Lost Words, A Journey for Justice from the Other Side. It is allegedly a memoir from Porter herself, detailing her relationship with Combs. But it reportedly contained typos, these shocking claims, and what many said was inaccurate statements. In fact, Quincy Brown, Christian, Jesse, Delilah, they wrote in a joint statement that was shared on their Instagrams, claims that our mom wrote a book are simply untrue. She did not, and anyone claiming to have a manuscript is misrepresenting themselves. Additionally, please understand that any so-called friend speaking on behalf of our mom or her family is not a friend, nor do they have her best interests at heart. Our lives were shattered when we lost our mother. She was our world, and nothing has been the same since she passed. While it's been incredibly difficult to reconcile how she could be taken from us too soon, the cause of her death has long been established. There was no foul play. Grief is a lifelong process, and we ask that everyone respect our request for peace as we continue to cope with their loss every day. And by the way, when we say memoir, let's be a little bit clear here. There's no information verifying that Kim Porter actually authored these writings or authorized a book to be written by her at any point. Even the author, Chris Todd, who we interviewed on a previous sidebar, he couldn't confirm whether these were actually Kim Porter's words or not. But he said he believes it to be true, claimed that Porter created the information herself on a flash drive, which Todd says she gave to friends prior to her death. Again, her family and loved ones denied this adamantly. And by the way, seemingly in response to that backlash, particularly from the family, Amazon actually removed the book from its online store. In fact, a spokesperson for the company said in a statement, "We were made aware of a dispute regarding this title and have notified the publisher. The book is not currently available for sale in our store." By the way, talking about controversies and Diddy's family, I gotta also call out Kim Porter herself because she was referenced in one of the Sean Combs lawsuits. April Lampros, who filed a sexual assault and battery suit against Sean Combs, she claims that back in 1996, Combs allegedly forced her and Kim Porter to take ecstasy and have sex with each other as Combs watched and pleasured himself. And in a twisted allegation, she said that after that happened, Combs even invited her to Porter's birthday party. But she also claims that Porter became resentful of her and actually got her fired from her job at a bar. Now, we have talked about the children. We've talked about Kim Porter. We've talked about Misa Hilton. Let me end this by focusing on another member of the Sean Combs family, Janice Comes, Sean Combs' 83-year-old mother. This is somebody who had to raise Sean Combs and his sister as a single mom at one point because Sean Combs' father died in a car accident when he was very young. Well, talking Janice Combs, she recently released a statement through her attorney, Natalie G. Figures. The statement read in part, "I come to you today as a mother that is devastated and profoundly saddened by the allegations made against my son, Sean Combs. It is heartbreaking to see my son judged not for the truth, but for a narrative created out of lies. To bear witness what seems like a public lynching of my son before he's had the opportunity to prove his innocence is a pain too unbearable to put into words." And then she says, "I am not here to portray my son as perfect because he is not. He has made mistakes in his past, as we all have. My son may not have been entirely truthful about certain things, such as denying he has ever gotten violent with an ex-girlfriend when the hotel surveillance showed otherwise. Sometimes the truth and a lie become so closely intertwined that it becomes terrifying to admit one part of the story, especially when that truth is outside the norm or is too complicated to be believed." Now, that is, of course, a reference to the 2016 video that was published by CNN a few months back of Sean Combs beating Cassandra Ventura in a hotel hallway. And by the way, that video comes out after he and his legal team adamantly denied all the abuse and assault allegations in all of the lawsuits he was facing. So, she seemed to have taken issue with him denying it when the video shows otherwise. And by the way, we also remember that Combs released an apology video on Instagram 2 days after that video was published, seemingly, again, admitting that he did it. But Janice Combs continued, "This is why I believe my son's civil legal team opted to settle the ex-girlfriend's lawsuit instead of contesting it until the end, resulting in a ricochet effect as the federal government used this decision against my son by interpreting it as an admission of guilt." This again is referring to the fact that Cassandra Ventura and Sean Combs settled that lawsuit the day after it was filed. The argument could be this led the floodgates to come forward. Everybody started filing a lawsuit against him, maybe in the hopes that they would get a payday. That's at least the argument put forward by the defense. But in light of everything that we've seen, you also have to wonder, are all of their allegations true? She does make a good point, though. He is innocent until proven guilty. He hasn't been found liable in any lawsuit yet. And she continued her statement to say, "It is important to recognize that none of us, regardless of our status, are immune to fear or mistakes. Not being entirely straightforward about one issue doesn't mean my son is guilty of the repulsive allegations and the grave charges leveled against him." She also said that he is not the monster that he's painted out to be and that he deserves the chance to tell his side of the story. We will see what that looks like at an upcoming trial. Maybe Sean Combs would even testify. We can talk about that on another day. But I am sure as Combs' case progresses, we will be talking more about his family, who at this point in time really seem to be his main support system. That's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.